podcast is provided for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as legal, business, investment, or tax advice. All opinions expressed by podcast participants are solely their own opinions and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of RCM Alternatives, their affiliates, or companies featured. Due to industry regulations, participants on this podcast are instructed not to make specific trade recommendations nor reference past or potential profits, and listeners are reminded that managed futures, commodity trading, and other alternative investments are complex and carry a risk of substantial losses. As such, they are not suitable for all investors.
Welcome to the Hedged Edge by RCM Ag Services, where we're getting out of the field and onto the mic to bring you weekly market updates, commentary from commodity experts, and monthly interviews with the biggest names in agribusiness. Welcome to this week's edition of the Hedged Edge. I'm your host, Jeff Eisenberg. Unless you've been stuck on a Carnival cruise ship for the past year, we all know that commodity prices are up and continue to trend higher. The big question for farmers and ultimately end users is what impact will higher priced inputs like seed, chemical, and fertilizer have both on the supply and demand for the U.S. major crops. Today, we're joined by a unique guest who is truly at the pulse of this discussion, Dale Strader. He is the branch manager for Helena Agri-Enterprises in Russellville, Kentucky, South Central West Kentucky area, where he manages the region's seed and chemical sales and has had his hand in farming over the years in the region. Billy's been with Helena for the last 10 years. Billy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jeff. Good to be here.
Now I got to ask, you go Billy or Billy Dale?
If my mother's listening, she would definitely want Billy Dale.
Okay, that's it. We'll go with Billy Dale.
Yeah,
that's it.
fine.
That's it. Perfect. Good. So you're in Kentucky. You can't really jump on a podcast talking Kentucky without first talking about bourbon. And and since we're talking about corn and we know corn is a main input into bourbon, I got to know what percentage do you think of the Kentucky corn that's grown gets into that actually makes its way into the Buffalo Trace?
Man, I'm not sure what percentage, Jeff. That gets east of us quite a bit right here, but I know some of those guys over in central part of the state. It's a big deal for them. I know a lot of their corn goes into production, and obviously everybody knows the regular name brand ones, but there are so many of those distilleries now that's popped up. It probably takes a lot of consumption.
Yeah, I would imagine so. And they, if they make it local, they want to keep it local. So they, claim some of the best soil. You guys claim some of the best soil in the country. So yeah, that's good. Yeah. And what about the limestone? Why is it that bourbon is actually, really known throughout Kentucky?
So I guess the bourbon, and I don't know the history on that as well as some do probably, but evidently it's got to have a certain percentage of corn, I think.
Okay.
To be classified there. I think the limestone water plays into there somehow or another, but I don't know that necessarily classifies it as bourbon or whiskey or whatever, but I know that changes the taste of it a lot. So
Right. The bottom line is don't mix it with anything, and you're probably in good hands, right?
They haven't branched out and started making it a lot of other places in the world just yet. So evidently there's something going on right here. So.
All right, good. Well, let's get into the discussion today. I really wanted to have you on, really tied to the fact that fertilizer costs and input costs have been, skyrocketing. The cost of natural gas and commodity prices running up. What can you share with us just in general is why we're seeing this rapid price movement, and I guess ultimately how is impacting the farmers that are in your area?
Yeah, of course we're pretty well done with corn harvest around here. Probably 80% of our soybeans are double crop behind winter wheat, so they're just now really getting into those. So I've been riding and talking with a lot of guys, and they do have some concerns. Luckily, as you guys know, the commodity prices are holding up real well too, and that's making everybody feel better. Everybody knows the drill. The fertilizer side, the natural gas, like you said, is the driving factor of that, especially on the nitrogen side. You've seen where some countries have talked about putting some restrictions on exporting certain fertilizers.
Yeah, Russia, right? Yeah, 15. I think Jody had mentioned in his article, his letter, 15% of fertilizers coming from Russia, and they're going to ban it. So that's kind of crazy.
what I've seen, it looks like maybe not completely. Read one article that basically the allocation they're going to put on what they'll export is not a lot different from what they had been exporting anyway. So I'm hoping that one doesn't throw a huge wrench in it. Now China shut theirs completely down, the way I understand it.
Right.
And not necessarily that a lot of ours came from China, but other parts of the world, when they have to start pulling off of the world market, that just changes your whole supply and demand thing even worse.
So I was looking back at a chart. It was pretty interesting, and I have it up here, and we'll try to put it in the show notes. It showed the spot price of ammonia back in 07, 08. Seems to be kind of rivaling where it is here today. And we also know what corn and beans prices did during those times. I guess going back in history and kind of drawing back in your experience, what were some of the decisions people were making then that they can maybe think they might make here today about crop rotation or their purchasing patterns? Are they going to prepay, or are they going to go hand to mouth, kind of waiting to see what happens? Just curious, what rises typically falls.
Yeah, it mirrors some of that 2008 all the way up to 2013 timeframe a little bit as far as the pricing part goes. I think there's a little difference now versus then. Some of the supply and demand issue, at least on the fertilizer, has just been the extra amount that's been applied the last few years. These guys all over the country pulled some big yields. They're having to put a lot more back into it. And I think that's playing into it, maybe as much as anything, just the extra use. That really is not the natural gas part. What I understand, I look back at some of that, we're nowhere near the natural gas price levels that we were back in that time frame, but yet we're really narrowing in on the same cost for ammonia. So, it takes 75% of the cost to make anhydrous is in the natural gas, I think, something like that probably. I'm surprised that the price levels are getting to where they are a little bit. So there's got to be more planning on it, whether that's logistics or whatever that is, the extra use, things like that. The guys I've talked to, luckily, our growers are not looking at making an acre change for the most part. Like I said, we've got a lot of winter wheat. They did plant as much winter wheat as they could. Wheat's bumping $8 now, probably, or something like that. They've come off a record wheat yield in our area. Most of them had a record corn yield, if not real close, one of their top three. And our double crop beans, what they've pulled off so far, look really good. They're holding up yield really good. So with the prices they have, I think they're going to be cash flush come the end of the year. I think prepay is going to be huge, which will present some challenges too. I joked with my manager here a couple of weeks ago. He called one day. He said, "What's been going on?" I said, "I'm trying to sell products I don't have, not sure if I can get, and I can't give a guy a price on." It's hard to do. Yeah. So I don't know how much better that's going to get come prepay time. That's going to be a little bit of an issue, but everybody's, at least growers in my area, are not talking about backing off of fertilizer rates yet. No big acre switch yet. That sort of thing. Nothing like that real bad. So at least.
Yeah, not yet. And the reality is, like you said, the farmers done an amazing job. They the best steward land that we've really seen, and almost ever. Perhaps we'll see what the USDA kind of comes out and says, but the consistency of the application of the fertilizer, the chemical, the seed, ability to hold up across both drought and wetter conditions is unbelievable. And so I guess kudos to you guys for putting this, helping these guys put this product together, because it's not a one-man job, whether it's the farmer or the seed or the chemical. Everybody has to kind of get the balance right for your area. So that's congratulations on that.
Well, we've come a long way. The seed, especially on the corn side, the seed plays into it as much as anything. I think we really narrowed in on placement. Nitrogen use for certain hybrids, things like that has made a huge difference. Mother Nature will still prevail no matter what. but we've at least softened the blow on some of those things.
No, that's great. And so, well, I guess we'll see. If I look at some of these charts again, it was kind of a spike up back in 7 and 8, and then it sold off in terms of the prices. What do you think people may end up doing? Will they maybe if it stays at these elevated levels, maybe back off the amount of fertilizer, or do you feel that they just may wait to see how the prices all correspond to the commodity price? Because I mean, at these prices of corn, we might be really needing $7, $8, $9 corn to justify some of these prices.
Yeah, and every growers will be a little bit different. It'll be interesting to see what the insurance price gets set at. I think that'll make a lot of decisions for guys, I think.
There you go.
And it'll be all over the map. We've got growers that know they've bought into the fact that they've got to make more yield year in and year out, and they know backing off fertilizer's not the way to do that. There's some that's got some high fertility, especially on the ground, things like that sometimes. And they've talked about possibly this might be the year they rob a little bit, and back off a little. So I don't know that there's a right or wrong there in talking to every grower is different, got a different situation. It will be interesting to see. And I don't know what supply will play in on that too when we get to that. The best laid plans could be messed up real quick.
Yeah, to your point earlier, Mother Nature rules all. And so, even no matter what we do, if the conditions aren't right, the supply could end up being affected, in other ways. So, yeah, I read an article earlier saying, we have to worry about food security and whatnot because supply side may end up waning due to the higher input costs. And the reality is higher prices is the cure for higher prices. And, there's always going to be an option for a farmer and for an end user to identify what it is they want to do to, make the most money for their business, maximize their margin. For an end user, they may change inputs. Feed yards can mix their blends. I feel that, and be curious your thoughts. I mean, I feel that, farming is one of the most adaptable industries out there, and they're going to make the adjustments.
Yeah, and those decisions get made based off of a lot of different factors. I think the first thing that'll come up, it does every year, is they're going to have to look at their tax implications this year. They especially in this area, they're coming off such huge crops. Generally, the guys in this area, they go buy new paint. That's their cure for it a lot of times. I don't know what the availability of that stuff is now. Just because they've got the money and want to go buy a new tractor, can they? So if that sort of thing happens, will they come more to our side on just looking to prepay more seed and chemical and more fertilizer than what some of them typically have in the past? And some of those questions I can't answer right now. UAN is our first big one that comes up with all this winter wheat. February, March timeframe, we're top dressing wheat. And that's one that concerns me a little right now. Obviously, we don't have enough here to plant the whole to cover everybody's needs. You never do this time of year,
right?
But you can prepay that and get that bought on some different pool terms. But those things haven't come up yet. They just haven't been available to lock in yet at any price. So it's just going to be a stair step of challenges, I'm afraid, and we're just have to meet each one somehow different. But I do think the prepay is going to be an interesting one first, to see what these guys do think they need to spend and what they're trying to round up and get ready for.
Yeah, and I think the benefit is they can look out in the forward curve of the markets too and see where prices are and try to make adjustments and decisions based upon where prices anticipate. So, if they are prepaying, they maybe start to leg into some hedging, or put some trade strategies on that protect them in the event that it continues higher if they don't prepay. So those are some things they'll have to call Jody for that, though, right?
Yeah, that's what I started to say. They'll have to read Jody's email every day for that. But
yeah, that's right.
They have gotten better as a whole about hedging some of that stuff. So I think that'll help. on some of those decisions too. It'll just chemical side. If you move to the chemical side, everybody knows, glyphosate and glufosinate, the two big ones. That's the unknowns. Our area, we're kind of immune to the glufosinate. We don't have a huge Liberty following as far as Liberty Link beans, things like that. We're just out of the cotton belt a little bit on that part too. So that one's probably not going to affect us as much. The glyphosate, we'll see where that goes. We've got allocations and they say it's coming. I just don't know what the timing will be on it. They can ship me all the glyphosate in the world I need, but if it doesn't come till September of next year, it's not going to do these guys.
Doesn't help.
Yeah. So we'll see where some of that lands. I've been telling the growers that I've talked to and that bring it up and a little concerned. It's okay. We've grown crops without glyphosate on them before. We can step back and do it again, especially if it gets to a price level to where you can add some other things in that adds up to the same cost per acre. They may go back to dumping 2 or 3 things in the tank, but that's just going to have to be the way it goes, I'm afraid.
Do you see, thank you for that. And do you see the chemicals, make sure we talk on this. So the chemical and seed side, do you see similar changes in price for a bag of seed or, like you're saying, the different types of chemicals as you do, or as you would in fertilizer? Or is it more not as highly correlated to the kind of the current inflation?
No, seed's not for sure. I don't feel like seed corn's been up a little bit. It's up a little for sure. That's probably just following the markets a little bit too, I would think. The beans, not as much. It doesn't feel like right now. So I don't think those are going to be a real big issue. The chemical, all over the map. Like we talked about, glyphosate's going to be up who knows what percent when it's all said and done. There's a lot of other things we're using that'll be 4 and 5% increase on it. Not that bad. When you look at commodity prices like we've got right now, it's not going to be too hard to swallow. So those, again, everybody's program's a little different on that. The seed and chemical, as far as cost per acre, I've been telling these growers, I wouldn't pencil out a whole lot more on it right now. Let's just see where it takes it. But really, the fertilizer is the big one on that one. Right.
No, that's real helpful, and I think a lot of people that'll ring true to them.
Yeah. And I've told them all too. Hey, let's don't panic. We're good. We had a little ag chem summit. Some of the branch managers that I'm in a division with a couple of weeks ago, and brought in all the basic suppliers. Somebody from each one, and nobody threw up any red flags, as far as supply, odd and end products here or there that could be a problem. And it was all over the map, from maybe we can't get the active ingredient to some of the inert ingredients were actually the problem with the production, all the way down to jugs and caps and boxes to put it in, things like that. So you may not, my manager's been saying, this coming year, you may sell what you got, not what you want. And that's what a grower is going to have to get ready for. Don't go off the deep end just yet, but it may not be the exact program you've been used to, but we'll still keep the fields clean and the crops healthy and things like that.
So in other words, take a measured approach, no need to panic, jump the gun here, get too worried. I think, it's a little bit of something is better than nothing at all, right? Yeah.
We can do this again at the end of March, and I may have a whole different team by then.
Yeah, let's do that.
Right now, let's I've told everyone just take it easy. We're fine. So
that's good. I think we should do that, because it is a hot topic. It's a question on people's mind as they finish up harvest. Start looking at the next year. The meetings are going to start. Are you guys going to get back to the live meetings, or have you? So far,
at least on a scaled down version a little bit anyway, maybe a few less people. I know I've got one a couple of weeks from now. It's a managers meeting, and they're doing it a little more regional. And some of the leaders of the company is just going to be via Zoom or something like that, instead of everybody going to one place. So, but yeah, gradually getting back to that.
Well, I've been out on the road with Jody a bunch of times in different locations, Helena locations. Haven't been down to your area, but I don't know what you guys serve. But a lot of times, baked beans and barbecue, that tends to work out pretty good for my palate.
We do cook real well here. I will say that we've probably got a deep fryer and a pellet grill and everything else back here if you wanted to look it up. So,
all right, yeah. Well, I'll have to get down there for that. That'd be that'd be great. Hopefully, we can do that. You're not too far. I'm in Columbus, Ohio, so I can
it's not too bad. And hey, I'll be right in between you and Jody anyway. So
exactly. Yeah, we'll have to do that.
Yeah, the guys love it when Jody comes in and talks to, man. He can hold somebody's attention for a little while on what he's talking about usually.
Yeah, I don't know if it's his southern draw or the gray hair, but yeah, people definitely like him.
Yeah,
that's good. Last couple questions, and I'll let you jump off. I guess in general, you say you've been at several different meetings, talking with different groups. I mean, what are you hearing that cutting edge, anything new that's coming on the agronomy side, seed chemical that's of interest for the group?
The biological side of things is obviously blown up last couple of years and getting to be a really crowded space anymore. And we've seen some benefit out of some. We've seen some, maybe not as much. So I don't know. I think some of that space, it may be a good time to be into that. With commodity prices the way they are, if some of these fertilizer and chemical prices don't take away some of those dollars that the growers would throw at that. I don't know, we dabble in that a little, but some of that's a little gets complicated to me sometimes too.
Yeah, it's almost too early, right? It's too good to be true. You can't go all in on that too, right? If you're going to try it, take a small step in and see how it goes.
These guys have in our area made big investments in equipment to try to do a better job. Their planters or combines, things like that. I do think they're extracting some yield that way. Just doing a better job with things too.
Very good. So last round of fast questions. So I'll ask, if you could farm anywhere in the country, where would it be?
There's a spot about 10 miles down the road from me that I think is the best dirt in the world. So
there you go. 220, 240 yield? What do you think?
Yeah, they're this year we're probably some of the better dirt around here is sitting around that 230 range.
Nice.
The more progressive guys are doing a little bit better job. That's generally where they're at. We got a lot of red clay. Some of these red hills can get a little tough if it does get dry on it. But it can really produce if you get the right weather on it too. So.
Okay, that's good. So when you're out with farmers, what's your favorite topic conversation?
Well, the first thing, if it's the right farmer, I always like to talk about the St. Louis Cardinals if I can get something on that. But in Kentucky, basketball around here is obviously a pretty hot topic. But here lately, obviously, it's been the fertilizer. That's first thing when I climb the cab. They want to know what's the price of DAP and potash right now. So
right.
I'll try to keep.
Yeah, the Cardinals didn't quite make it, and Kentucky, I haven't seen the early stats. How are they looking on basketball?
It's the same as every year. On paper, we could beat everybody.
Okay.
But you got to get on the court. And so the games don't get played on paper. So we'll see. We got a good football team right now. So that makes you feel a little bit better. We're slowly turning into a football school.
Hey, that's good. Feed them all that good corn and you turn into, corn-fed white boys down there. That's good.
Bourbon may be good for football and basketball. I don't know.
There we go. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, Billy, Dale, I really appreciate you coming on today. How do people get in touch with you if they need to reach you or want to get in touch with your operation?
Hey, I'm a big email guy. I love email, Jeff. It's straderb@helenaagri.com. And glad to hear from anybody.
Yep. That sounds good. Well, we'll put that in the show notes and connect up with Helena on Twitter and Facebook so that everybody can kind of hear and see your face. And hear what we talked about here today. But again, really appreciate you taking the time, and let's do that. Let's connect back up in March. We'll pencil that in and kind of get an update from you in your area.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks, Billy Dale. Have a great rest of your day. Good weekend. The Hedged Edge is brought to you by CME Group. CME Group is the world's leading and most diverse futures and options exchange. For more information and educational resources about futures and options, visit cmegroup.com.
You've been listening to The Hedged Edge. Links from this episode will be in the episode description of this channel. Follow us on Twitter at ag_RCM, like our Facebook page under RCM Ag Services, and visit our website to read our blog and subscribe to our newsletter at rcmagservices.com. If you like our show, introduce a friend and show them how to subscribe. And be sure to leave comments. We'd love to hear them.